Hello, Storytime peeps. Let's see, this is our second Storytime in May. This is a program the Sandown Public Library does. I'm Trisha, I work at the library. We're going to be talking about wind today. Our crazy spring weather. Sometimes we have really windy days. Sometimes we have snowy days. Sometimes it rains. Sometimes it's really warm and we're able to wear our shorts. So let's start with a book called Wind. This is a Weather Watch Wind book by Bullfrog Books. This was written by Jenny Fetland Van Verst. A windy day. Hold on to your hat. Uh-oh, look at the umbrella. It's inside out. Let's see, is that better? It's a very windy day. What is wind? Wind is moving air. You can't see it, but you can see what it does. Look how the grass is bent over from the wind. That's really windy. Look at the branches of the tree. Makes leaves blow. What makes wind? Warm air rises, and as it rises, it cools off, and then the cool air falls. This creates movement, and that movement is wind. Warm air rises up, then it cools off, then it comes back down. That creates wind. Wind is important. It helps plants. Helps plants. It helps spread seeds around. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, right? When we were planting. Can you see that little dot right there? That's a seed. See it? The seed of the dandelion. Wind moves weather. A storm forms on the coast, but it ends up in the middle of the country. How does it do that? The wind blows it. Wind can cause storms, but wind can also be fun. We made that in crafts this week, didn't we? Kites. Will is flying a kite. Did you make a kite this week in crafting crew? How did it fly? Oh, Val is going sailing. You do need wind on your sail to get your boat to move. What do you like to do when it's windy? These are different types of storms that the wind creates. A hurricane, a sandstorm, a tornado. Some of these storms can be dangerous. And a blizzard. Blizzard is a lot of snow that blows around. We do get those. We don't tend to get tornadoes where we live. And I don't think I've ever seen a sandstorm here. That would be more in the desert. But we do get hurricanes, and we certainly get blizzards in the winter time, right? With all the snow blowing around. So I have this blue cloth because I'm going to read you a felt story. Usually we do these at the library on my felt board, but I'm not at the library recording this. So I have this cool blue cloth. It's just a piece of fabric. Are you ready? It Looked Like Spilled Milk by Charles G. Shaw. This is a book that I've had since I was in high school, actually. I was going to a high school to learn how to be a teacher. That's how long I've had this book. I don't even see the publisher. Oh, it's a HarperCollins book. It looked like spilled milk, but it wasn't. What does that look like? It looked like a rabbit, but it wasn't a rabbit. Sometimes it looks like a, what? A bird, but it wasn't a bird. Can you guess this one? Sometimes it looked like a tree, but it wasn't a tree. Sometimes it looked like an ice cream cone. You know what comes next, right? But it wasn't an ice cream cone. Sometimes it looked like a flower, but it wasn't a flower. Sometimes it looked like a pig, but it wasn't a pig. Sometimes, what's that? Can you tell what that is? Sometimes it looked like a birthday cake. Was it a birthday cake? It looked like a birthday cake, but it wasn't a birthday cake. Sometimes, what's that one? Can you tell? Sometimes it looked like a sheep, but it wasn't a sheep. Sometimes it looked like a great horned owl, but it wasn't a great horned owl. Do you know what we're talking about in this book? Sometimes it might look like a mitten, but it wasn't a mitten. Sometimes it might look like a squirrel, but it wasn't a squirrel. And sometimes it looked like spilt milk, but it wasn't spilt milk. Do you know what the author's talking about when I'm reading this book? What does that look like? A white kind of shape on a blue background. Did you guess? It was just a cloud in the sky. Did you guess that was what it was? Sometimes the clouds just kind of hang in the air, and sometimes they go across the sky really, really quickly. Why is that? Is it because the wind is blowing? You're right. That is why. Now this is a book I found on the library shelf under World Around Family. Flora's Very Windy Day by Jean Birdsall, and the illustrations are by Matt Fellin. This is a Clarion book. The book is probably too big to get all the words and pictures in, so I'll have to move it a little bit. Mommy! Crispin spilled my paints again, shrieked Flora. Well, I told you you need to keep your paints out of his reach, said her mother. I tried, said Flora, but look at this mess. Outside, Flora, right now. I can't go outside, protested Flora. The wind is very strong and will blow me away. Nonsense, said her mother. Flora thought for a moment. Of course, I could wear my super special, heavy-duty red boots, and they will keep me from being blown away. Fine, fine, said her mother, and make sure you take Crispin with you. That's her little brother. Now, Crispin did not have any super heavy-duty red boots to protect him from the wind. His boots were purple, and they wouldn't do anything but keep his feet dry. Oh, well, Flora thought, it wouldn't be her fault if Crispin blew away. So Flora put on her coat and her hat and her super special heavy-duty red boots. And her mother put Crispin into his little coat and his hat and his regular old purple boots. And when that was done, Flora's mother opened the door and Flora and Crispin stepped outside. Remember, into the really windy day. The wind was indeed very strong that day. It pushed and it pulled and it twirled and it twisted. No matter how hard it blew, Flora stayed firmly on the ground. Ha ha, you silly wind, said Flora. You can't lift me up because I'm wearing my super special heavy-duty red boots. Well, the wind did not like getting laughed at. It doubled its strength and it blasted mightily at Flora, but still she didn't budge. However, said Flora, you may notice that my little brother is wearing regular old purple boots. Uh-oh. Now the wind tripled its strength. It swirled and it swooped and it whizzed and it walloped. And then, oh my, Crispin was being lifted off the ground. Just a little bit at first, but the wind grew stronger and Crispin went higher and higher and higher still. He was being blown away. He looked very frightened. I think that would be kind of scary, wouldn't it? And suddenly, Flora was kicking off her super special heavy-duty red boots and spreading her coat to the wind, and oh my, she was sailing up towards Crispin. She grabbed his hand and closed her eyes and wished. She wished she was anywhere else in the world. But soon Flora realized that being blown by the wind was comfortable, like riding along on a squishy flying chair. She decided to open her eyes. Just then, they came upon a dragonfly. "Will you give me that little boy?" asked the dragonfly. "He could polish my wings." "Silly dragonfly," scolded Flora. She knew that Crispin was too clumsy to clean such delicate wings. "He's my brother, and I'm taking him home." "If the wind lets you," said the dragonfly. Flora and Crispin flew on and on until they came upon a sparrow. "Will you give me that little boy?" asked the sparrow. "He could come sit on my eggs." "Oh, what a mess that would be," said Flora, as if Crispin could sit on eggs without breaking them. "He's my brother and I'm taking him home." "If the wind lets you," said the sparrow. Crispin's really just a little boy, isn't he? Flora and Crispin flew on and on and on until they came upon a rainbow. "Will you give me that little boy?" asked the rainbow. "He could guard my pot of gold." Gold? That was very tempting, but thought Flora, Crispin is not fierce enough to guide anything. "No, he's my brother and I'm taking him home." "If the wind lets you," said the rainbow. Flora and Crispin flew on and on until they were upon a cloud. "Will you give me that little boy?" asked the cloud. "He could squeeze out all my raindrops." Flora thought about squeezing out raindrops. She thought it sounded like fun, but Crispin would surely catch a cold, and then who would help him with his nose? "No, no, I won't give him to you. He's my brother and I'm taking him home." What does the cloud say? Does the cloud say, "If the wind lets you"? Flora and Crispin flew on and on until they came upon an eagle. What's the eagle going to say? "You're right. Will you give me that little boy?" asked the eagle. "He could sharpen my talons." Look at the eagle. "You can't fool me," Flora said. She saw the hungry look in the eagle's eye. "He's my brother and I'm taking him home." And the eagle said, "If the wind lets you." Flora and Crispin flew on and on and on until they came upon a man in the moon. "Will you give me that little boy?" asked the man in the moon. "It's lonely up here and he would keep me company." The man in the moon had a kind face, and he did look awfully lonely. But there were no chocolate chip cookies on the moon, and Crispin was so fond of chocolate chip cookies. "I'm sorry, but I can't," said Flora. "He's my brother, and I'm taking him home." And the man in the moon said what? "If the wind lets you." Flora stomped her foot, or would have if there had been anything to stomp on. "I'm tired of hearing that. Why won't the wind let us go home?" "You should ask him," answered the man in the moon. Well, Flora hadn't thought of that. "Oh, wind, will you let us go home?" "I'll let you go home as soon as we find the right spot for Crispin," replied the wind. "You do want to get rid of him, don't you?" "Oh, yes. Well, I did. Flora wasn't sure what she meant. "Because I could even use him myself," said the wind. "You know, to work my bellows." Oh, no, thank you. Flora had finally decided. "I should take him home. My mother wouldn't like it if I lost him." "Well, if that's what you really want," said the wind. "Yes, please," said Flora. So the wind turned Flora and Crispin around and blew them home. Look, there's her boots. Flora put her super special heavy-duty red boots back on, and she straightened Crispin's hat and brushed the shreds of the rainbow from his coat. She rang the doorbell, and her mother opened the door. "I decided to bring Crispin back," Flora told her. "From where?" asked her mother. "From the moon," said Flora. "Nonsense," said her mother. "Now come inside. I've made chocolate chip cookies." That's a nice treat. Her mom didn't believe her that she and Crispin had been on the moon. She was mad at her brother at first, wasn't she? She was happy that the wind was going to blow them away. But then she decided, yeah, maybe that's not such a good thing. There's another book I found at the library. Make Things Fly, Poems About the Wind. Well, that's pretty cool, huh? Go Wind by Lillian Moore. See the pictures? Go wind, blow. Push wind, swoosh. Shake things, take things, make things fly. Ring things, swing things, fling things high. Go wind, blow, push things wee. No wind, no, not me. Not me. Poems can be fun, can't they? This book was edited by Dorothy Kennedy and illustrations were by Sasha Moret. I should have told you that first. This is a Margaret M. McGeldy book. This poem was written by A. Milne. Do you know who that is? That's the person who wrote Winnie the Pooh. No one can tell me, nobody knows, where the wind comes from and where the wind goes. It's flying from somewhere as fast as it can. I can't keep up with it, not if I ran. But if I stopped holding the kite of my string, it would blow with the wind for a day and a night. And then when I found it, wherever it blew, I should know that the wind had been going there too. So then I could tell them where the wind goes. But where the wind comes from, nobody knows. I like that. I think that's a neat little poem. And the last book we're going to read is Kite Day, a bear and mole story. Have you read any of the bear and mole books? I'm going to raise my camera up a little bit. It's hard to fit these big books when I'm reading. This is written by Will Hellenbrand. It's a Holiday House book. Remember we talked about when there's only one name, that means they wrote the words of the book and the illustrations. Will Hellenbrand. Bear looked at the sky. Could it be, he wondered? He tilted his head up, whiff, whiff, whiff. What's he smelling? He smiled and then shouted, Kite Day! Bear rushed home. He's really running. What do you think he's going to get? Come on! Bear waved at Mole. Kite Day is here. What does that mean, Kite Day? There's Mole. He's digging. It's what moles like to do. What do you need in order to fly a kite? Bear collected. Mole studied. Bear snatched. Bear measured and cut. Mole drew. And they both constructed. Oh, now you know what they're making, right? What do you need? You can make a kite, but what do you need to get it up in the air? Finally, they raced outside into the meadow and the kite flew. Zoom, zoom, zoom. It soared up and up and up. Then dark, heavy clouds rolled in. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Uh-oh. The breeze blew into a gust and then snap, the kite string broke. Oh, away, 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 spun the kite. Oh no! Screamed Bear and Mole. Down, 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 plunged the kite. Save the kite, shouted Mole, and the two ran. Hurry, 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 urged Bear. You see the kite? Mole stopped. He tilted his head up. Splat, splat, splat. Rain pelted the broken kite. Look, cried Bear. Oh, sighed Mole. Chirp, 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 squeaked the chicks. Thank you, sang Mother Bird. So the kite landed on top, over the nest of the baby birds. It was like a roof to protect them from the rain. That's pretty neat. This is Kite Day. This is actually a Plastow Library book. I borrowed it from them. You can borrow books from other libraries also. You can get online to the catalog and you can request them. Because not all libraries have every book we want to read, right? All right, I'm going to switch the camera back. There we go. So I hope you enjoyed those stories about wind and clouds and kites. And I'll see you here next week. What are we talking about next week? I think flowers. Check my calendar. I think flowers. Do you have any flowers growing? Did you plant the seeds that you got from my friend Josh at Meadows Mirth Farm? Send me a picture if your seeds are growing. I'll see you next week. Bye.